there you go. Those are 5 incredibly powerful tools that you need to start practicing. And I'm going to give you all of these tools in a daily routine here in a couple minutes. One quick thing I'll mention about the tools, and then we'll move on to the next part, is these tools are not everything. One tool is probably not going to change your life right away. These tools will help you in varying degrees depending on how you respond to them, just everybody's different. So my favorite tool, which happens to be over articulation, might be different than your favorite tool. So everybody's different. Every tool for different people has different levels of effectiveness. So these aren't miracles. These aren't everything, but they're incredibly useful for helping us build confidence and to start feeding that fluency habit, that fluency program, so we can make it as strong as possible. Okay, now those are 5 of the powerful tools that I wanted to share with you. But what I also want to share are 3 what I call emergency tools. So these are a little bit more extreme tools, but they can still be really useful, especially in the short term, over the next few weeks perhaps, to try to give you a sense of, oh, I have options. I don't have to say things exactly this way. I can navigate my way around this better. And so that is the point of emergency tools, to give you a sense and a feeling of, I have alternate routes here. Okay? The first emergency tool I want to mention here is what
والله تمام عجيبة والله عجيبة انت والله انت عجيبة.
It's what I call the wow tool.
ايوه صح
It's one of my favorite tools to use. All this is when you find yourself, or if you find yourself stuttering or blocking and it has already become obvious. So if it's the cashier and that person, they can already tell that, okay, you stuttered and you stuttered in a very obvious way. Once you reach that point, there's really no point in trying to ignore it or trying to pretend like it didn't happen. And so one of the great things you can do is to actually do something like this. So if you're at the gas station, you're at the cashier, and you say, hey, I want $30 gas on pump 6. And if you go, wow, okay, let me restart that. What I want is $30 gas on pump 6. Did you see what I did there? I employed this sort of emotional release of, I didn't just stay locked in this mode of stuttering and then trying to get through it. I used this wow-like expression to kind of diffuse the tension that's building perhaps in the room or between me and the cashier. So I can say, again, instead of being like, I want to, wow, okay, let me restart that. Having a rough day, you know. What I want, so I'm on pump 6, and could I please get $30? I'm telling you, it's gonna feel weird to acknowledge it at first, but when you've already stuttered and it's already obvious to the person or people you're speaking to, sometimes it's just better to acknowledge it and to release the tension and to own it a little bit and to just be like, wow. Now, I said it's wow. It's not, I'm so sorry that I stuttered, please forgive me. It's none of that energy. It's just kind of confidence. It's like, yes, you didn't love that it happened, but also you're not going to be all apathetic and woe is me. You're like, wow, man, I'm just having a rough day. It's one of those days, you know? It just releases the energy. It's so cool. I love this tool so much, and it works really well to even just knowing that you have this as an option is really powerful, okay? So the second emergency tool is the soften the consonants tool. So this, if you feel like your voice blocks up on consonant sounds, especially like perhaps S's or K sounds, like soften the consonants, you know, that type of thing, then one of the things that I found helpful, especially for a time early on, was softening the consonants. And when I was struggling a bit, I would go a little bit more into this mode of speaking with where I soften the consonants. So an S would turn a little bit more into a Z. So instead of soften, it's soften. Or instead of consonants, it's consonant. So it turns a bit more into a G there. consonants. Soften the consonants. A little bit more like this. Now, yes, it'll sound weird probably, and it will if you overdo it. But that's why it's in the emergency tools section. This is not a tool that you want to just use all the time for everything. You want to practice the 5 tools we just talked about. Those are a bit more high quality, and those are more versatile, and you can use them more frequently without sounding weird. But if you need an emergency tool, if you're still early on in this process, this tool of just softening the consonants can really help you. And also, a byproduct of softening the consonant is also it can help you lower the volume a bit, which can help some people as well, because that kind of tends to naturally happen when you soften the consonants, where you don't speak quite as loud, and for some people that helps. And finally, the third emergency tool is actually an extension. It's an extreme version of the soften the consonants tool, and that is you just drop the letter altogether. So instead of saying soften the consonants, it's like often the consonants or soften the consonants. Now, yes, sounds weird, and this is this is an emergency tool. It's one of those things that it can really help you when you're in a pinch, where you just need to say this one word, but you can tell you're going to block on that first letter. Sometimes when you just drop the letter, then you're good. Now, let me give you a quick example of how I used this tool once. So this was a few years ago. I was driving for DoorDash. So I was out doing some DoorDash deliveries, and I had this delivery to an apartment complex, but the door to the complex itself was locked, so I couldn't even get in to drop the food off at their apartment. And so I didn't want to leave it just outside of the huge building. So I had to call the customer. They answered, and what did I say? I kind of started to anticipate the D on the word DoorDash. And so what I did was, yes, hi, this is your DoorDash driver. This is your DoorDash driver. I just dropped the D, and I just went to DoorDash. And it worked like a charm. I was so happy after. I was like, yes, I have options. I don't have to say it this way. Now, again, if you overdo it, yes, it's going to sound weird if you do it all the time. But when you're in a pinch like I was, and I just didn't want to deal with it, I just wanted to get through it fluently. I didn't want to have an unnecessary stuttering memory or embarrassing memory to deal with. And so I was just like, let me just drop that word and just say DoorDash instead of DoorDash. And guess what? You think the customer cared? Of course not. Probably didn't even notice, but even if they did, they're just happy that I'm there delivering their food. So everybody wins. All right. So those are 3 emergency tools that can be extremely useful when you're just in a sticky situation and you need to get out of it, or you need to just make your life easier. Okay. All right, now we're gonna bring all of this home soon, and I'm gonna show you the daily routine and how to actually practice the tools in the context of a daily plan. But before we do that, let's talk about the rule model technique. The rule model technique, it's such a powerful technique, and here is the rule model technique explained. One of the secrets to becoming good at anything, whether it's playing basketball or speaking or anything else, is to learn from those who've gone before you. Okay? The rule model technique helps you get out of your own head through the activation of what are called mirror neurons as you study and imitate a speaker you admire. And finally, learning from a role model helps to strengthen the new fluency program that is running in your brain. Now, I just want to touch on a couple things here that I mentioned. One of them is mirror neurons. Now, you can go dive deep into this on Google if you would like, but this is just one of those really powerful ways of learning, that you learn new things and you learn new skills. We don't learn as well as human beings by just reading a book. We learn by watching somebody else do something. And when we watch and observe, it activates these mirror neurons in our brains, and it gives us the ability to imitate it, often profoundly well. Especially when you're a kid, these mirror neurons are just going crazy. Your ability to imitate is unbelievable, and that never goes away completely. And it's always something we can tap into. It's always something we can leverage, is that ability to imitate as a means of gaining skills faster. Okay? So we want to learn from role models. We want to Observe great speakers. You want to observe speakers you admire and learn from them and start to treat them as your role models for what fluent, smooth speech sounds like. Now, one thing I will mention about role models is for those of us who struggle or have struggled with stuttering and blocking, one of the issues that pops up a lot is you like the way a certain person speaks and you want them to be your role model, but they speak too fast. This is often the case. And what I would say to that is you can imitate basically everything else, just slow it down. All right, now let me answer the question, what is the technique to use? How do I practice learning from a role model? Well, it's very easy. It's what I call the play, pause, role model technique. Very, very simple. All you do is you grab a YouTube video or maybe open up an episode of a TV show where your character that is your role model is speaking a lot, and you find the lines where they're speaking, and then you hit play, let them speak, you hit pause, and you repeat back what they just said while trying to kind of imitate their tone, their flow, and their energy and all of that, their smoothness, right? And the way that I'm going to give you an example of that is by opening up a YouTube video of Tim Ferriss, and this is how I would practice this. So here we go.
Hey guys, Tim Ferriss here. I wanted to talk about note-taking.
Hey guys, Tim Ferriss here. I wanted to talk about note-taking. Notice how I slowed it down slightly, right? To kind of adjust to what I felt was more comfortable for me, but everything else I tried to imitate as closely as I could.
I have what you might call hypergraphia, which means
I have what you might call hypergraphia, which means
I write all the time. So I have
which means I write all the time. So I have
hundreds of notebooks.
So I have hundreds of notebooks. It's just that. It's really cool. It helps me get out of my own head, of my own stuttering problems, and it helps me to focus on a great speaker who's ahead of me that I can use as a role model to help my own progress. And it's just an incredible way to practice. So I want this play, pause, practice routine to be a part of your daily system. Okay? And speaking of your daily system, let's bring all of this home and let's talk about your daily practice routine. What does this look like? Now, I'm going to walk you through this, and then you are also going to have a daily routine PDF that will be below this video that you can download. I recommend printing it out as well if you're able to. But step one in this daily routine is meditation or breathing exercises for 5 to 10 minutes. Now, you can either, if you already have a meditation practice that you do on a daily basis, then you can just do that for this part and you are golden. Now, if you're just doing the breathing exercises without a meditation that you're perhaps listening to or practicing, then what you want to do is just take deep breaths from your stomach. So not like from your chest, but you want to feel your stomach going out as you're breathing in. And then, so it's just... You can either do nose breathing, mouth breathing, both. It doesn't matter. Really doesn't. Maybe there are slight differences between them, but as far as I can tell, as far as I know, it's a trivial difference. And so whatever feels right through your mouth, through your nose. And then again, you want to feel your stomach expand. This is called diaphragmatic breathing. This is a much better way to breathe, to kind of set your voice up to be the most relaxed it can be. Stomach out. And stomach goes in as you breathe out. So breathe in, stomach out, and kind of you can make this nice and slow. Maybe close your eyes and just get into this relaxed state, okay? So that's step one. You want to do some kind of meditation or breathing exercise for 5 to 10 minutes. Now, step two is you want to do affirmations for about 5 minutes. Now, on the daily routine PDF that you can download again below, I have 3 of my favorite affirmations in that PDF that you can see, that you can repeat. You can always replace them with your own if you want to, but affirmations is just a way of, it's positive reinforcement. Your brain is probably so accustomed and so used to you saying to it, oh, you're a stutterer. Why am I stuttering? This is so annoying. Oh, I hate this. Blah, 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 blah. It's negative, negative, negative. So one of the ways we want to change that script is by thinking, yes, more positively. And I know it sounds cheesy, and this isn't everything, but this is a part of the system and a part of the plan that you want to have. You want to tell yourself things like, I am a highly competent speaker. I am a highly competent speaker, right? Or every day and in every way, my speech keeps getting better and better. And you just repeat that over and over and over again. My general advice is about 15 times each, and just go 15 times for the same affirmation over and over and over. Do that for about 3 affirmations. Maybe do it with your eyes closed so you can really focus. Like, I love speaking. Every day and in every way, my speech keeps getting better and better. Every day and in every way, just on and on and on like that. Okay? I know it sounds a little corny. It'll be a little bit weird to do it first. But that's okay, because at the end of the day, we have bigger goals and purposes than just trying not to do weird things, right? All right, step 3 is the tools training. And this is where you read aloud for 20 to 30 minutes. So what we are going to do is take the tools from before. Again, this is clearly laid out in the routine that you'll download below. And you are simply going to grab a book and read aloud while practicing the tools in a specific way, in an exaggerated way. Okay, so I just grabbed a book here that happened to be laying on my desk. Really good book, by the way. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And so let's kind of walk quickly through what this looks like when you practice the tools that we just talked about. So let's start with the word stretching tool. Okay, so when I'm practicing this and when you're practicing this, I want it to sound kind of like this. When we were eventually exposed to the outside view, we collectively ignored it. I'm completely exaggerating for a purpose and on purpose. You want to do that too. You want to exaggerate these tools. And the reason you want to exaggerate these tools, the way I always explain this is, think of, again, let's take a basketball analogy. Think of Steph Curry. When Steph Curry is in practice shooting threes, it's like 3, 3, 3 over and over and over again. It looks nothing like that in the real game. But when he's in practice, there's a lot of value in really honing in on that one skill and really just 3 after 3 after 3. In the same way, when you're practicing the tools, you want to exaggerate the tools as you're practicing them so that you can make your brain incredibly comfortable with them. You want to build this sense of almost like kinship with the tools, like you're friendly to them. They know you, you know the tools, your brain is comfortable with them, because that's the first step. You need to be comfortable using these tools, starting by yourself, before you're ever even going to be able to start accessing and using these tools in public to help you speak more fluently. Okay, so it all starts with exaggerating by yourself when you're speaking. Or when you're practicing alone. Okay, a couple more examples. When you're doing the over-articulation tool, again, we're exaggerating. So when we were eventually exposed to the outside view, we collectively ignored it. Again, really sounding weird. Again, just like Steph Curry shooting threes in practice. In the game, it'll look more like this, maybe on certain words or in specific words you'll maybe over-articulate, but you're not going to do it for the whole phrase, obviously, because that's just sounds too weird and it doesn't fit in enough in a social context. But again, when you're practicing, we want to exaggerate to get as potent of an exercise routine as we can find. Okay, now another tool you want to practice is using your hands, right? So if you're doing this with a book, you can just use one hand, or you can read something on your computer. That way you actually have both hands free, or maybe even lay your book down. That can work fine as well. But that's just like you're getting used to using your hands. So it'd be like when we were eventually exposed to the outside view, we collectively ignored it. We can recognize you're just building up this comfort with using your hands and all these tools. And then finally, one more tool that I'll give you an example of is the hammer tool. So practicing the hammer tool, the stop and restart, this is the one that's maybe the most unnatural to do, because the way that you want to do this is actually stop mid-phrase as you're reading and go back. Again, to build comfort. You want to be able to do this and get really comfortable with doing this tool when you're alone, because that is the first step to then being able to access this well in public when you need it. We practice the tools when we don't need them so that we can access them when we do need them. Okay? So here's what it would look like to practice the hammer tool, is stop and restart. It would be like the preference for the inside view sometimes carries moral overtones. I once asked my cousin, a distinguished lawyer, a question about a reference class. What is the probability? So I'm stopping and I'm restarting. Now I'm not intentionally stuttering or being like, what is the probability? Like, that's just a stuttering memory that's completely unnecessary. That is besides the point of what we're getting at here. The comfort we're trying to build with this hammer tool when we're practicing like this is to just build up that skill of stopping and restarting, like restarting that phrase. So you don't have to make an obvious cutoff before you restart. Just stop and restart the phrase and get really used to that movement. Because when you do, and then as you start to be able to integrate that into your public conversations and interactions, it's such a powerful tool. Okay, so those are the tools kind of explained how you want to practice them. So that's step 3, tools training, read aloud for 20 to 30 minutes. And again, I have each of the tools laid out and how many minutes to practice for each individual one in the PDF that you'll download below. And then finally, step 4, you want to do the play, pause, role model practice technique. So I obviously just explained this, so I'll just quickly one more time. If I'm imitating Tim Ferriss, which is again my favorite role model, it would just be like this: grab a YouTube video or something like that.
So I feel like I'm in a pretty good position to talk about what the hell
So I feel like I'm in a pretty good position to talk about what the hell
to do with lots of notes. You need a
what the hell to do with lots of notes. You need a, and it's just that, play, repeat, play, pause, repeat, and just try to imitate, try to really get inside of the style and the flow and the smoothness of a great speaker that you admire. Because when you do that, and you do that and you consistently do that, you start to internalize it, and you start to understand the differences between the choppiness perhaps of your style and their style, and it helps you to become aware of that. And that is a powerful connector then, through that awareness, that you can start inching your way closer and closer to their flow and their smoothness, and just learning from them and applying it to your own speaking style as well. Okay, so those are the 4 steps for your daily routine. And what you want to do is practice this routine 5 to 6 days a week for at least 8 weeks and see what happens. So one more time, download the daily routine PDF below, and you'll find all the steps in even more detail there. Okay, now let's bring this home, and we need to talk about one more thing, which is the topic of exposure therapy. Exposure therapy. The reason we need to talk about this is we can't only have a plan that only works when we're speaking alone. We need to find inroads and find ways that we can bridge the gap and apply it to real world situations, to public life as well, not only private life when you're alone and practicing. That is where exposure therapy comes in. Now, let's answer the question, what is exposure therapy? Well, exposure therapy is the act of facing your fears head on and subjecting yourself to things that scare you. It's been around for a long time. It's been proven over and over and over again to be the best method to growth, especially when it comes to habits, when it comes to rising above fears and anxieties and all these things. Exposure therapy is just an incredible way to change your life. Because the only way to calm your fears and rewire speech anxiety is through exposure. The part of your brain that controls your fears and anxieties, which is called the amygdala, does not respond to logic or reason. It responds to proof. What does that mean? You can't just tell your amygdala, that anxious, fearful part of your brain, to just turn off because it doesn't need to be on. Like, that's like your prefrontal cortex saying, oh, but we don't have to be anxious, so let's just not be anxious. You and I both know that's not how it works when we're feeling anxious, right? The way it works is we feel anxious even when we know that it's irrational. And this is why you need to use exposure therapy, so that you can prove through your actions that your amygdala and those anxieties that come from your amygdala can start to chill out. Because the more times that you prove to your amygdala that the anticipation, that the anxiety was actually wrong or was completely over-calculated or over-projected how bad that experience, the upcoming speaking experience would be, when you prove it wrong, the brain doesn't like to be wrong. It wants to project well, and so the more times that you prove that anxiety and that anticipation wrong by being better than what your amygdala expected you to be, then it'll start to chill out over time through exposure therapy, through that proof. Okay? Now, don't worry. This is important. You don't need to start with a terrifying challenge. In fact, I advise against that. You want to start small so that you remain confident while you're slowly building the confidence for bigger challenges. This is so important. You don't want to go so big and swing for the fences right away that you then leave devastated and completely embarrassed because you were over your head or you just took on a challenge that was too big. You want to start small. You want to look for small wins. And speaking of small wins and the formula for starting to create these small wins, now let me walk you through a little 5-step formula that I've created for engaging with exposure therapy for your speech. Step 1, find a situation that slightly scares you. Just find something. This could be as simple as if your habit is to order a coffee through an app. I know, a lot of these chains like Starbucks and Chipotle, you can order online through the app and don't have to talk to anybody. You can just go in, pick up your food from the mobile station, and you're good to go. You didn't have to deal with any possible stuttering embarrassment. But the potential problem with that is that's a practice opportunity. That is an exposure therapy opportunity that you missed out on. And so you want to find a situation that maybe slightly scares you. That might be a great place to start, something like that, where instead of ordering on the app, you go in person and order your coffee that way. Now, step 2 is you need to show confidence with your body language, even if you don't feel it. This is so important. The way that you build confidence is not by becoming confident on the inside and then working outwards from there. Like, you don't start by feeling confident and then acting confident. No, you got to act confident first. And a big part of this is just show confidence with your body language. And often this simply means good posture. Don't walk into the coffee shop slouched over, or don't walk into a party with droopy eyes looking down and slouched over. No, chest out, shoulders back, and engage with the world. Show some confident body language. It's so important. You need to do that. And step 3 then is focus on only one tool at a time. So you have the 5 powerful tools that we talked about. You also have the 3 emergency tools that we talked about. And you want to focus on one tool at a time, because you can focus on all of them. You can't even really focus on 2 or 3. It's only going to be one at a time as you're trying to apply the tools you're learning and apply it to the conversations you're having with people. One tool at a time. For me, this is often over-articulation. If I need one tool, that kind of unlocks my fluent speech program in a lot of ways. Okay? Focus on only one at a time. Step 4, reward yourself. When you succeed in even just the smallest way, reward yourself. It doesn't even matter really how big or small. Maybe don't make the reward so big that it's dangerous to your health. Maybe don't eat a whole quart of ice cream, but maybe a little bit of ice cream is amazing, right? Reward yourself a little bit. Treat yourself as that rule in 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Treat yourself like you're someone responsible for helping, and that's what we're doing when we reward ourselves. Okay? Step 5, just repeat. That is the 5-step formula for exposure therapy. Find a situation that slightly scares you. Show confidence with your body language, even if you don't feel it. Focus on only one tool at a time, like word stretching, over-articulation, whatever. Step 4, reward yourself after even the smallest success. Step 5, repeat this all over again. You do this over and over in as many situations as possible, you are well on your way to calming those anxieties those fears. And you are well on your way to taking that fluency that you're practicing in private and for it to start like a river that starts running onto that dry land, and it starts to take over that, like your public conversations as well. And now you are able to expand beyond just being fluent when you're alone. You need to engage in exposure therapy. Now, to kind of bring this home, let me give you a quick few examples of what exposure therapy might look like. Order food in person instead of using an app. Already talked about this. Great example. Another one, call someone instead of texting them. So if texting is like a safety behavior that you have when you maybe otherwise would have called or even preferred to call them, then you want to challenge yourself to call the person instead of texting them. Another example is going to a social event and committing to the 60-second rule. Now, the 60-second rule is a rule that I learned from Ramit Sethi. He once talked about this. I don't know if he came up with it or if it came originally from somebody else, but it's a really good rule. Basically, the rule is when you go into a social situation, especially if it's a party or a gathering, then you give yourself 60 seconds to go introduce yourself. So once you're in the door, once you arrive, no more than 60 seconds, you go introduce yourself to somebody. You walk up to them and introduce yourself. You don't allow for you kind of walking in sheepishly and then you kind of go in the corner and just wait for somebody to hopefully talk to you. Like, no. Be proactive. That's an example of exposure therapy. Within the first 60 seconds, go introduce yourself and start talking to somebody. Okay? Another example is create a social calendar in order to create more speaking opportunities. So perhaps you're a very busy person and it's hard to find the right times, or it's hard to just find time to go out and hang out with people, or even put yourself in situations where you're able to practice and engage in this exposure therapy. And so one of the things that can be useful is to start creating a social calendar. Maybe even buy a physical calendar that's just for your social life. And start doing a little bit of planning. Like, okay, on Friday, I have some extra time after work. Let me go do this. Let me go look up maybe any events happening on the Meetup app in your town and see if there's anything interesting there. Put that on your calendar. Find ways to create more speaking opportunities. And this is one of the ways that you could experiment with. And finally, if possible, you want to set your career path in a direction where you will be required to speak more. If you want to reach fluency and become a great speaker as fast as possible, the best way I know how to do that is by making sure that you're in a job where you have to speak a lot. Because that is so much exposure and it builds up your competence and your confidence so much more quickly just because you have more practice, you have more opportunities in higher pressure situations. Because you're actually speaking with people, maybe you're doing work presentations, maybe you're on the phone a lot with clients. Just if you can set yourself up to where your job requires you to speak a lot, then you set yourself up to become fluent faster and just become a more articulate speaker in general. Okay, so those are a few examples, a few practical ways, a few things for you to think about when it comes to engaging in exposure therapy for your speech. All right, now before you go and implement this plan that I gave you today, I want to give you a quick opportunity to check out my premium programs. While I did my very best to give you the best possible plan here in this workshop, I do understand that for so many of us, and I was one of these people, that sometimes we need that extra touch of a one-on-one coach. Like we need to be able to talk to somebody to help us with our habits, to help us with our schedule, to help us with the daily routine, to make sure we stay on the right path. Because sometimes we've been in this stuttering mindset for so long that it's just really hard to push through those barriers on your own, even with an incredible resource like I just gave you. And so I want to make sure I give you the opportunity to get on a one-on-one coaching call with me so that you can have some accountability, so that we can tell me your story, we can work on things together, I can give you a more precise plan. And the truth is, and you of course know this, speech is really important. It's a really important asset for social life, for career life. And almost every aspect of our lives, if we can speak better and speak more confidently and smoothly and fluently, that we just improve our lives in so many small ways that when you combine all the small things together, it's just this massive improvement in the quality of your life. I want you to be a master of your speech. I want you to be able to not just become fluent, but stay fluent the rest of your life. And not only that, become a master of speech and live the best life you could possibly live. And if you are ready to get that started, then what you can do is go join a one-on-one session at a highly discounted price for $50 US. And this will be up to 1 hour. So it'll be 45 minutes to an hour where we'll be able to dive in. You'll be able to share your story with me. And even if you don't want to join the full plan, that's completely okay. It'll still be so worth your time to get on this one-on-one session with me. Thank you so much for watching this workshop, my friend. This really has been a pleasure to put together for you. I trust and I hope that you find this information and this daily routine and the plan that you just got today. I really hope you find it immensely useful. I really hope it changes your life. And it has the potential to do that. And so take it seriously. Don't treat it, casually. Take this seriously. Go implement this plan and go become the best speaker you can become. Thank you again for watching and have a great rest of your day. See ya.